Good afternoon and welcome to our standing committee meeting for Monday, November 22nd, 2021. As always, our first order of business is public comment. I just want to remind all those who provide comment that your comments are supposed to be germane to business that is before City Council. Our first registered speaker is not with us today, so that will take us to our second registered speaker, Kevin Quisenberry.
Hi, good morning or good afternoon, council members. My name is Kevin Quisenberry. I'm the litigation director with the Community Justice Project, which many of you know is a nonprofit law firm, part of the Pennsylvania Legal Aid Network. I work here in our downtown Pittsburgh office, and my comments today are made on behalf of myself, my organization, and as a member of the Get the Lead Out Pittsburgh campaign. My comments again focus on the Pittsburgh Lead Safety Law, which is Bill 2021-2101. Again, this is a really important bill, and we are very grateful to Pittsburgh City Council's work in beginning to address the longstanding problems with lead in our communities and to protect Pittsburgh's children from the lasting harm of lead poisoning. The Pittsburgh Lead Safety Law is a big step in the right direction. And the work of council members to strengthen the bill over the last several weeks has been greatly appreciated. However, we weren't able to resolve all of the issues that we've been discussing with you in the past few weeks. And I want to briefly run through those and ask council to keep these in mind as we move from enacting the bill to implementing the bill. The first is that the lead inspections for rental dwellings is tied still to the rental registry program. And because the rental registry program remains in litigation, in fact, an appeal was filed to the Commonwealth Court recently, there remains some risk that the lead inspection protocols won't materialize. And so we ask council to keep a thumb on that and be aware of that. And if the rental registry program is not up and running within the implementation period of the Pittsburgh Lead Safety Law, we would ask council to amend the law to require PLI to simply inspect for lead hazards whenever it's inspecting pre-1978 rental dwellings. Secondly, the bill does include robust protections to ensure that city conducted demolitions are done in a lead safe manner, which is fantastic. However, we were not able to include in the bill at this time the same kind of requirement for privately conducted demolitions that are permitted by the city. The concern as expressed is that there would need to be a process with Pennsylvania Labor and Industry to propose a revision to the relevant UCC provision in order to add those lead specific protocols in the private demolitions. That process is very clear in the law. It's spelled out point for point. We've had this discussion, with folks a number of times, and we would urge council to go ahead and initiate that process once the bill is enacted so that we can add those lead safety protocols to the private demolitions also. And then finally, we were not able to work in financial assistance or incentives for lower income homeowners, landlords, or childcare operators to help them pay for lead remediation or lead repairs in their properties. Again, we believe council's committed to this issue as has been expressed to us by many members. And we ask you to take that up, once the bill is enacted and as we move toward implementation.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ashley Deemer, followed by Joy Brunstein.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me. My name is Ashley Deemer, and I'm the Deputy Director of Penn Environment. We are located at 1831 Murray Avenue in Squirrel Hill, and we represent more than 5,000 members and activists in the city of Pittsburgh. I'm joining you today to say thank you. Thank you to Councilperson Erica Strasburger for introducing legislation this morning to ban single-use plastic bags in Pittsburgh. Thank you to Councilman Wilson and Councilman Coghill for your support at the press conference this morning. Thank you to Councilman Kraus for your support of this bill, and thank you to Councilman O'Connor's office for joining this event this morning as well. I just wanted to say that Penn Environment fully supports the legislation, and we look forward to Council's consideration and hopefully passage of this law. And we care so much because plastic waste is a major threat to our environment and public health. Earlier this year, we released a new study called Microplastics in PA. And through this research, we found the presence of microplastics in our most iconic local waterways. In fact, every waterway we tested had microplastics. That includes the Three Rivers, the Youghiogheny, 9 Mile Run, Chartiers Creek, you name it. We found microplastic contamination. And that impacts our health, right? Microplastics carry chemicals that can cause cancer, disrupt our hormones. They're taken up by fish, and people consume plastic. Plastic bag production also is a significant contributor to climate change. And so we know that our rivers and streams are important to us here in Pittsburgh, and that our climate is something that the city has been working tirelessly to address. And so once again, we support this effort to reduce plastic waste in the city, because a bag that we use for 5 minutes shouldn't be allowed to pollute our environment, endanger our health for centuries to come. I want to offer myself as a resource if members have questions about this legislation or the issue more broadly. I'm happy to bring experts to the table who can answer any questions you may have. We work on this issue quite a bit across the state. I also just want to say, while I'm here, that I support the Lead Coalition's efforts to make the lead bill as strong as possible, and I second everything that Kevin Quisenberry stated previously. So thank you again to all the action that council has taken recently on these important issues, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Joy Brunstein, followed by Naomi Mullen.
Hi, this is Joy Bronstein. I live in Squirrel Hill. I work for Clean Water Action. I am a mother of 2 children in the city of Pittsburgh, and I'm here today. Initially, I was going to be just talking about the lead safety law again, but given the introduction of the single-use plastic bag ban this morning, I'd also like to talk about that very briefly. On both counts, I want to echo what my colleagues Ashley and Kevin have said. Applaud your hard work, your participation and your cooperation with the environmental community to make sure that we have the best Pittsburgh that we possibly can. The plastic bag ban is really exciting. I won't get into that a lot, but I do want to urge you on the Pittsburgh lead safety law to take what Kevin asked for very seriously and what we've asked for very seriously. Move the bill forward, vote on it, get it passed, but remember that there's still risks involved with not following through on adopting the draft resolution that we've provided to several of the council members that takes the extra steps to make sure, as Kevin said, if the rental registry does not go into effect in a short period of time, that this still moves forward. And those other pieces that Kevin talked about, we're all available to you to answer questions. We've worked with you step by step. I applaud all of your efforts. I want to thank all of you for the energy that you've put behind this, and we look forward to working with you in the next several weeks to see the passage of both of these bills. Thank you.
Thank you. Naomi Mullen. Mullen, are you with us? Currently on mute, Mullen.
Hello.
We can hear you now.
Hello. May I speak now?
Yes.
This is Naomi Mullen from Bon Air. Shady trees, not shady deals in Bon Air. The Pennsylvania Constitution states, under political powers, that all power is inherent in the people and all free governments are founded on their authority and instituted for their peace, safety, and happiness. Where did elected officials get the idea that they are lording over us? How can they make decisions for our community that we've lived in and been property owners in for decades? The PPS board and administration has created a controversy. After repeated speeches to the board and city council, they have not dropped the sale of Bon Air School. It is a crime to use a falsehood to vote, create a resolution, sign a sales agreement, transfer a property, or create a legal contract under a misrepresentation. Officials have a duty to investigate and act against crime when notified. You have been notified. There have now been 3 community meetings with Gregory Coyle. It is 7 months of no community support from Bonaire. We even gave him a petition with 250 signatures on it. We want the building torn down and a green space to take its place. Gregory is operating in bad faith, and the school district officials are harming we the people of Bonaire. This crime must end. We the people are not being represented. We are being harmed. Taxation without representation is a call to halt payment. Having a great school closed and now heading toward more detriment, we do not consent to injury and harm. This issue has united our neighborhood, regardless of political party or race. We have hundreds of signatures on our petitions to prove the community support for a green space. Significant community concern has been expressed to the Board of Education and the City Council all these months since the announcement of the agreement to sell the school. Perhaps there is a neighborhood busing plan afoot. Block busting is illegal. It doesn't help the city or the neighborhood to make it less safe and less stable. Is there a lobbying or unregistered lobbying taking place? Is there a special friend of politicians that are special friends of Gregory Development? A senior neighbor whose extended family has lived here over 100 years told me something very wise. She said that there is going to be a revolution if this keeps up. My sincere, consistent request is that the City Council create a resolution to block zoning change and support a green space to replace Bonaire School building. Do your part for the environment, reduce urban heat, reduce watershed to Route 51, increase green space to benefit all ages and stages, protect the children at the playground across the street. Let's make it wheelchair accessible to allow those who have difficult access to nature the ability to enjoy it. Tear down detrimental problem buildings, not safe, stable neighborhoods. You want to reduce watershed to Route.
Thank you. That exhausts our list of registered speakers. Are there any other speakers with us today wishing to provide public comment? Any other speakers wishing to provide public comment? I see one online, Michelle Nakarati Chapkis. David? Chapkis?
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you for calling upon me. I submitted information last evening and somehow it didn't get over to you. My name is Michelle Nakarati Chapkis, Executive Director at Women for a Healthy Environment, located in East Liberty. Thank you, Council, for your time, your investment, and your commitment to addressing lead exposure across the city. There's no better way to shine a light on the dangers of lead poisoning than to give our community solid strategies to prevent it. When giving a workshop in the city a few years back, a mom approached me to discuss how her toddler had just been diagnosed with lead poisoning, and she was devastated. This mom thought she was doing the right thing because she had moved to a new home, a new neighborhood, and had a new landlord. She did that because her older child was previously diagnosed with lead exposure when living in their former home. You see, families can't move away from this problem to escape it. I shared with you last week the story of 2 families who recently contacted us for support. And last Friday, we received yet another call from another family whose child just tested for elevated lead, and they too were seeking support and resources. I'm confident that this ordinance will ensure that families don't have to move from home to escape the hazard of lead, and that all children are protected from lead in their rental homes. The ordinance should include financial assistance or incentives to help homeowners, small landlords, and childcare owners make the necessary repairs that address lead hazards. I recognize that this might take time, but we are willing to be patient and work through that process with all of you. As you may know, the county received a $3.5 million HUD grant for lead hazard control remediation in approximately 175 units. And then in 2020, received an additional $5 million grant to remediate additional homes across the county, including the city of Pittsburgh. Although this funding may sound significant, and it certainly is, We also know that more than 85% of the housing stock across the city of Pittsburgh was built before 1978, the year that lead was banned from paint. Like we have learned from many other cities that have adopted a lead ordinance, a financial program must accompany the ordinance to support low-income homeowners, landlords, and childcare providers who desperately want to do the right thing to reduce or eliminate the threat of lead in their spaces. We need assistance for them to do that very thing. We know, for instance, that Cleveland had passed their ordinance and then worked on a financial program shortly thereafter. The city and its coalition have raised more than $20 million from public and private sources. And this is the philanthropic, corporate, healthcare, and nonprofit communities coming together to address a centuries-old problem. That is why we're calling upon the passage of a resolution by City Council to address this. The resolution would direct the city's Department of Finance within 120 days of enactment of the lead ordinance to provide council a report on the fiscal impact and validity of a property tax exemption or a credit, an income tax exemption or a credit.
Thank you. Any further speakers wishing to speak before City Council? Seeing none, that moves us to our standing committee agenda. Would the clerk please take the roll?
Mr. Burgess,
Here.
Mr. Coghill,
Here.
Ms. Gross,
Here.
Mr. Kraus,
Here.
Mrs. Kale Smith, Mrs. Strasburger,
Here.
Mr. Wilson,
Here.
Mr. Lavelle, Chair.
Here.
7 members present.
Thank you. The first committee of the day is Finance and Law, which is chaired by myself. Would the clerk please read the Bill 1943, 1986, and 2059 together as their companion pieces?
Bill 1943, ordinance supplementing the Pittsburgh Code at Title I, Administrative Article 11, Human Resources, Chapter 192, Pensions, by adding subsection 192.023, so as to add language to allow for elimination of the Social Security offset for municipal employees. Bill number 1986, ordinance amending the City Code at Title I, Administrative Article 11, Human Resources, Chapter 192, Pensions, Section 192.01, Definitions, Section 192.20, Municipal Benefit Plan Number 2, Section 192.21, Establishment of Municipal Benefit Plan Number 2, Section 192.22, Membership, Section 192.23, Contributions by members, Section 192.24, Contributions by the city, Section 192.26, Pension allowance in Section 192.27, Death benefits, and adding a Section 192.22A, Membership and Municipal Benefit Plan Number 3, in order to remove the security offset for certain non-union members and to fund the removal of the offset. Bill number 2059, ordinance amending the city code so as to extend the life of the parking tax asset and making related changes to effectuate that extension.
Motion to approve, very brief discussion. Second. Councilman, do you have an amendment? There's an
Yes, there's an amendment. Okay, I can do it or you can do it, doesn't matter.
Offering up an amendment on 2059, which I believe is solely technical in nature.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Bill 2059 is amended. Any further discussion on all three bills? Councilwoman Gross.
Actually, probably should have asked this question before we just approved the amendment that I have in my hand, but I'm actually confused by some of the wording. And do we have to answer who's the author of the amendment?
We can have our budget director. If you want clarity, it extends the parking asset out 5 years and also so that it becomes up to 80% fully funded.
Yes, I support that goal. The at the bottom of the chart of distributions, in the amendment in section 272.04, effective date and sunset, I don't understand this language. This chapter shall remain in effect so long as the funding is required to maintain the Comprehensive Municipal Pension Trust Fund at or above, and then there's a bracket. It says the word 50 and parentheses with the number 50 and bracket, And then it has underlined an 80% funding ratio.
50s removed and 80s added.
Okay,
Right.
just making sure. Brackets instead of strike-throughs. Okay.
That's
got
correct.
it. I'm comfortable with that now. Thank you. It was just, I think I've done this before. And I don't know why sometimes we have brackets for things that are removed and sometimes it's strike-throughs. But I think
Ordinances and
every time
brackets.
it happens, I get confused.
Ordinance,
Okay.
ordinances and resolutions,
Oh, thank you, Madam Clerk.
ordinances and resolutions. So ordinances normally typically do brackets and resolutions typically.
I don't think we did it that way for the lead ordinance has strike-throughs instead of brackets, but.
And then it depends on who's arguing.
Okay, just throw me off every time. Okay, so we just amended this, that we're committing to a funding level at or above 80%. So right now it is not at 80%. So does the pension offset not apply until it reaches 80%?
It was also here.
No.
It's at 72. Let's ask Bill.
Yes, what this does, this is separate from the offset bill to the extent that it, by committing those 5 years, you're adding $134 million in value to the pension, or in actual dollars to the pension fund. When that's discounted, that's 53 million more in value for next year. We needed to do this because the pension fund was, the asset was decreasing. Also, when this was first put in, the idea was to get us to 50% so we wouldn't be taken over by the state. That wording in there needed to be adjusted because our actual funding level for the invested funds separate from the asset are now at 49.8%. So in all actuality, if we reach 50%, the asset should go away. This extends that out for the asset not to go away until the invested portion reaches that 80%. I know it's a little confusing.
Yeah, I'm just muddling the different pieces of legislation here. So this is just about committing the parking funds.
That's
then
correct.
When we reach 80%, that obligation of parking assets goes away.
Goes away. That's correct.
Got it? Okay. Thank you for that.
Yes.
Welcome.
Kraus?
Hey, Bill.
Yes.
I just want to thank you. I know this was a lot of work, and it was important to this council, and I expect a unanimous vote here today. All members are supportive of what we do to provide for our employees, but you really helped to make this happen. I know you put endless hours in, and I don't want it to go unsaid how much we appreciate your efforts.
Thank you.
Councilman Coghill?
Yes, I also want to thank you, Mr. Urbanek, for all the hard work and juggling you had to do to make this happen. I see we have the city controller here. Do we want to call him to the table to ask any questions on this?
You may if you would like.
Please.
We don't have.
Change the seating up on your mic. There's-
Afternoon. I'm just here really in support, I've been working, Bill Urbanek and I have been talking about this for several years now, and the need to change the language around the extension of the life of the asset. Even if we weren't adding years, there was still concern about this 50% number being in there. And this gives us an opportunity now to clean that up in conjunction with the work that you're going to do with respect to the Social Security offset, which again was something we've always seen as unfair to the employees that it affected.
And as our fiscal watchdog, you don't see any problems with.
I don't. I think, the fact that the people affected are contributing to pay for the cost of removing the offset is helpful. And extending the life of the asset will also increase the valuation of the asset. So I think it's all sound.
That's all I needed to hear. Anybody else?
Thank you. Any further discussion from members? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Two separate things. You have to approve the,
You approve the amendment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did the amendment already.
I discussed it after we approved it.
oh, okay, that's what, okay, that's what, oh, you're right.
Sorry.
Sorry. Sorry.
All good. Were there any opposed? Didn't think so. All three bills receive an affirmative recommendation. Thank you all very much. And thank our budget director and our controller. Our sole new paper, no, sorry, we're still on deferred bill 2167.
2167. Resolution amending the rules of council, Rule 4, standing committees, Section 2, and Rule 5, regular meetings, Section 1, to provide for certain changes to the order of business in accordance with applicable law.
Motion approved. Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Bill, our new paper, Bill 2182.
Bill 2182, resolution authorizing an agreement with Tidings and Rosenberg for services related to disparity studies for disadvantaged business enterprises at a cost not to exceed $26,200.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Bill is recommended. Need a motion to approve the invoices.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Invoices are approved. Need a motion to approve the interdepartmental transfers.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Transfers are approved. Need a motion to approve the P cards.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? P cards are approved. That takes us to Public Safety Services Committee, chaired by Councilman O'Connor. One deferred paper, Bill 2174.
Bill 2174, ordinance amending and supplementing the Pittsburgh Code of Ordinances, Title 5, Traffic, Article 1, Administration, Chapter 503, Enforcement and Control by adding a new section, Section 50317, Equitable and Fair Enforcement of Motor Vehicle Laws.
Motion to hold for 2 weeks, I think.
Wait.
Let me explain why. I've been working with public safety. They actually want to add more stuff to it. And so I told them we would work together. Councilman Coghill and I met with public safety and the police chief. And we're having a great, I think, a very great partnership, great relationship. I think 2 weeks would be enough time for us to come up with the additional language that they're suggesting.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Bill will be held 2 weeks. New paper, Bill 2199.
Bill 2199, resolution recommending that the Department of Public Safety and the Bureau of Police participate in Movement Forward, Inc.'s program, One Congregation, One Precinct Initiative, and National Faith and Blues Weekend.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Bill is recommended. That takes us to Human Resources Committee, chaired by Councilman Kraus. Our one new paper, Bill 2185.
Bill 2185, ordinance amending and supplementing the Pittsburgh City Code, Title 6, Conduct, Article 5, Discrimination, Chapter 651, Findings and Policy, and Chapter 659, Unlawful Practices.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilwoman Strasburger?
Thank you. So just a quick explanation of this bill. For those who might not have been briefed already, this would extend an existing protected class, victims of domestic violence or victims of partner violence, which currently exists for housing non-discrimination. So you cannot discriminate against someone if they disclose that they are a victim of domestic or partner violence when it comes to renting an apartment or selling them a house. That already exists in law. That was passed in 2016. This would extend that to employment discrimination. So if you disclose to your employer that you are the victim of domestic violence or partner violence, the employer must make reasonable accommodations, such as allowing you to arrive late or leave early. There's a whole set of employer guidances that the Commission on Human Relations has established that allow employers who want to do the right thing to be good employers in that regard. And you cannot then be penalized if you disclose to your employer that that is the case, and that is why you need those accommodations. This has been the work of the Commission on Human Relations. I really give them credit for this, as well as the Women's Center and Shelter that has really done the bulk of the work on this with them. And, I ask for council members' support. So I'm happy to answer questions or call anyone who might be here to discuss this bill up to the table if there are additional questions from council members.
Councilman Wilson.
I want to express my support. This is a very important bill that will add protections for people and their employer or, in that workspace. I'd like to add my name as a co-sponsor, if the councilperson allows.
Thank you. So duly noted. Any other members?
I want to add my name too. I think discrimination on any place at any time should not be prohibited in our city. So I certainly add my name as a co-sponsor and support Councilwoman Strasburger leadership.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Bill is recommended. That takes us to Land Use and Economic Development Committee chaired by Councilman Wilson. First deferred paper is Bill 1867.
Bill 1867, ordinance amending the Pittsburgh Code Title 5 Traffic, Article 7, Parking, Chapter 549, Residential Parking Permit Program, so as to clarify the administrative process for the program, provide for virtual permitting, add the permit fees to the city's annual fee book, adopt regulations for the use of visitors' permits and non-residents permit, and create the hybrid RPP area program.
Motion to hold for 1 week.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Bill be held 1 week. Bill 2101.
Bill 2101, ordinance amending and supplementing the Pittsburgh City Code of Ordinances in multiple locations with provisions related to lead safety and mitigation in order to reduce and thereby mitigate the health risk of exposure of city residents and particularly young children to lead hazards.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? I
There-
believe
There's an
Discussion.
amendment. There's an amendment.
Oh.
Councilwoman Strasburger.
Motion to amend
Second.
Second.
All
by
those,
substitution.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Councilwoman Strasburger.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to just speak briefly because this is a large comprehensive lead ordinance. And I know that it gets technical very quickly. But what I wanted to remind people of is really what's in the bill. Is going to be, this is something that is going to make a tremendous impact on the children of Pittsburgh and people of Pittsburgh, majority of whom live in older houses and our older building stock. And it is, it's going to allow for preemptive or kind of ongoing proactive inspections of rental units, getting inside of older and newer rental units to be able to inspect for lead. That is a huge first step. It will allow for people for lead to be detected prior to the mandatory lead blood test of 9-month-olds. It breaks my heart every time I hear from the people like Ms. Nakaradi Chapkis and others who are on the ground fighting this battle, hearing that they're being contacted by worried parents who are doing everything they can to protect their children, and their lead blood levels are high, and it's heartbreaking to hear, and it shouldn't happen to anyone. We have to do everything we can. So those proactive rental inspections are going to be incredibly important. And there is language in the bill that separates it specifically legally from the rental registration. So as we know, the rental registration will be enforced this spring, but it has been appealed in court. So if there is a stay, if we need to halt the rental registration program for whatever reason, we will still be able to move forward and intend to move forward with lead inspections. It will allow for the proactive inspection of childcare facilities. We'll have a registry of childcare facilities that will be inspected on a regular basis to make sure that children who are, whether it's in-home childcare or not, they'll be detecting lead there. There are elements around any kind of demolition. We know we have a lot of discussions here around demolitions and deconstruction and how we want to prevent demolitions, but the city-funded demolitions will have to be done in a lead-safe manner. If you're seeking, for those who are doing work on their houses, if you're seeking a general contractor's license or a renewal of your license, you will have to verify that you are lead safe certified, meaning you've gone through an 8-hour course and you're certified by the EPA that you are lead certified, as will the people doing work on city-owned and city-funded buildings. If you are, we passed if we're going to be working to place lead filters or doing replacements as necessary on water, water spigots and sinks, to the extent that the public is going to be accessing those, and especially targeting areas and buildings that are residential or where children are, making sure our water is lead-free in the city of Pittsburgh. In addition, as you might remember, we passed a will of council asking all of our water authorities, not just PWSA, PA American Water, and the other authorities that have small slices of the city, to be able to follow the example of PWSA. And when they're doing lead line replacements, it's a full line replacement, not a partial replacement, which can elevate the levels of lead in the water. And asking that they, follow the example. Surprisingly, at this point, we didn't think we'd say this 8 years ago, but we're here now saying, follow the example of PWSA and really make lead removal in your water lines a priority. There's more to this, and there's also, we fully recognize this is a first step. It's taken a tremendous amount of work to get to this point, but it is a first step. It is not the final step. We have to figure out ways to implement this appropriately, to make sure it's truly enforced and enforceable. And that, yes, in some cases that we are providing pools of money for certain entities and certain individuals who are going to be working to abate for lead, to access to be able to do this. But we have to make sure that's done in a really methodical and equitable manner. So among the other things that the Get the Lead Out Coalition mentioned. So I'm just incredibly grateful that we're at this point, because this has been an urgent issue for many years, and we're finally at the moment where we can put what we've been wanting to do into practice, and then continue to work with partners outside of city government, like the Get the Lead Out Coalition, all the groups that have been here advocating for months and months and months now, that we've been working alongside of, with council members like the co-sponsors of this bill, Councilwoman Gross, Councilman Wilson, Councilman O'Connor, and then other levels of government like the county health department and others who, really do play a role here, and then our water authorities. And as we see another infrastructure bill passing through the federal government, we've already been able to carve out $2 million to fund this lead bill. We need, frankly, we're going to need more, and we're going to need to find funding streams to fund this in the long term. So we really do eradicate lead from this region. So just wanted to address that. Sorry, I know it was long-winded. It's a big bill, and wanted to address some of the concerns we heard, but also make sure people knew all the good things that are in here and how important it is.
Councilman Wilson, followed by Councilman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Councilperson Strasburger, for putting forward this bill and all the work that you've done, and all the collaborative work that you put together so others could collaborate and you really listen to all the concerns. And I think what we see in front of us is a bill that not only protects children, but it also protects the city in terms of what we can do. This really adds a lot of new elements to what the city will begin to get into, especially with changing our code in terms of entering the property and tying this to rental registration. Just the number going back to our budget hearing, the number of rental registration units that were, older, I believe the date is 1978 of units. I think it's about 80% of the 70,000 rental units that we know of. That's a astounding number, even if you just take 70,000, and we expect there's at least one child, an average of one child in 70,000. So 80% of 70,000. I mean, that's a pretty big number. And then this is a proactive measure. So that means that roughly 50,000 children will, although it's going to take some time to get up and running, there is this protection from, a possible dangerous environment. And it holds the landlord accountable. It ensures that that child has an opportunity to live in a space that is going to harm their development. So there's a lot of other things, and that the council person has gone through, and I support all those in terms of the demo, the water filters, and all the other aspects of the bill. I just wanted to mention that because I just think it's probably one of the most important bills that we've done this year, if not the last 5 years.
Yes, just two quick things, Councilwoman Strasburger. You said as a general contractor, you will have to go through an 8-hour certification. Now, does that mean, I'm a general contractor, so does that mean if I want to do repairs in a building that I will have to be certified? Just repairs?
So this is more on the licensing side. So to renew your license, you would have to demonstrate that you're lead certified to have that. The good news is currently we have that offered for free. It's generally a $200 cost, and through some grants and some the work of Women for a Healthy Environment, that is currently offered for free. So we're really trying to make sure that everyone who's going in as much as possible. Originally, it was going to be any person who's doing repairs. It was going to be tied to this, but really wanted to make it sure it's focused on licensing what we really have the power to do. So general contractors were really.
I didn't realize that. I believe it's every 2 years. I think I have to renew that. Not quite sure. I think it's every 2 years. But and I understand it's for free, but I cringe when I hear 8-hour, certification. But we are going to have it inspected by PLI. Who would do the inspections?
So this is the inspections when it comes to the work that's being done, any kind of private work that's being done, are going to remain the same. So they'll inspect for electrical, they'll inspect for plumbing, they'll inspect for, construction. At this time, and this is something that the advocates, if they're listening, we've really been in conversation about, do we add then another additional check for lead safe work or presence of lead in the inspections? That's not in the bill at this time. That would be, one, we believe that we would need a waiver from the labor and industry, the state, to be able to do that. And two, that would add to the 5 certifications that our construction inspectors already have. It would be a 6th one. So at this time, we're not equipped to do that. We're really putting it on the onus on the license holder to receive that training.
Oh, I see. So not enforced then?
It will
We don't
not
know.
be enforced at the time of inspection inside a unit, but we would hope that those who are seeking general contractor licenses, who have verified that they have RRP certification, would then implement their work in a lead safe manner because they have their certification.
Get it. Okay. And my honest opinion is any contractor worth their salt, remediates it themselves, or, takes the measures to do that. And when you say it costs nothing, the issue for me is 8 hours is a lot of money for a contractor. For me to take 3 hours out of my day is like brutal. But so I guess I have some concerns about that, and we'll talk about that further. And as to who is going to inspect, if anybody is going to inspect. in the end, come in and I guess before you do a project, we're going to need an inspector to come in and say lead, no lead.
Oh.
Okay, so we're relying on the person who's certified. If I want to knock down walls in a building, then how do you know? I have to be certified, but you're just taking my word for it. Okay.
And recognize that there are gaps here, right? If someone is not going to apply for a general contractor license, but they're doing that work, of course, yes, it's not a perfect bill. We recognize that.
Okay.
We would love to get to the point where we are getting at every source of lead, at every single instance of, disturbance of a building and interior. But what we do know is that this is getting at the predominant, it's kind of triaging, like the predominant pathway to lead, which is under, and as Councilwoman Gross always reminds me, poorly maintained rental units. And that's where it's focused now.
Right. Okay, that clears it up. Go ahead, Councilman Wilson.
We got an interrogatory. So I just want to clarify that the general contractor license, that's for commercial property.
Right.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
Okay. I just,
General for commercial, right.
yeah.
Right. And I guess, and as Councilwoman Gross said,
Like the 3 units and up.
right.
Okay.
So what Councilwoman Gross has said that you won't be able to get your license renewed if you're not certified, but there's no oversight there, basically.
Well,
we're saying.
you can get your license, but it's just that.
Without the.
But it's just whenever you go to PLI and you want to do work in the city. Sorry, maybe I misunderstand, but basically to work in the city.
Yeah, like I need a general contracting license to do certain projects, and I take that on. But I guess what I'm asking is, if we decide not to take that 8-hour course, then you will not be renewed your license. If you do decide to take that 8-hour course, you will be renewed your license, but there still will be no enforcement or nobody looking after it at that point. And we're going to think and work and talk about that.
Ostensibly, someone could call the EPA and enforce it.
Gotcha.
And that's kind of where we have
Gotcha.
enforcement at this
Okay.
time. But we don't have the capacity right now to be able to enforce.
Okay. Madam Clerk, I have to run to a ribbon cutting. I just wanted to register I votes on, the rest of what's on the agenda. And I also want to commend you, Councilwoman Strasburger, this morning. I was proud to stand next to you on introducing your, no bag. And I think it's just a beginning. And as I showed you, my comments I got, nothing but positive feedback on it. So I look forward to, working with you further on that.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to also speak a little bit to I think the opportunity here, which is that we can start doing the work at PLI to get ready to enforce this bill, right? And so that's why I'm eager to move forward today to just pass this bill so that we can actually start to put the pieces in place so that we are ready for implementation in 2022. It has been a long road. I just want to acknowledge that. I feel like it's been at least a year in front of this particular language, and certainly years before that, talking about the possibilities of doing lead remediation in the city and all that it might entail, and what were all of the constituent parts. So really Get the Lead Out has helped us, and the Lead-Free Allegheny Coalition has really helped do a lot of the diligence work, a lot of the best practices research, and really helped us pull together kind of all of the facets of where city capacity is and is not in order to get us to move forward. I am most excited about the fact that we are proposing inspections for property maintenance. You can look at the Carnegie Mellon University website called Create Lab, where there's visualizations of where blood poisoning is happening in the city. You can see that they are neighborhoods with an extraordinarily high level of renters, You can see that they overlap with our underinvested neighborhoods, where we know there are large land holdings with poorly maintained apartments. You can see that it also overlaps significantly where evictions are high. I feel that these are the kinds of landlords that need to bring their housing up to code. We have a significantly high portion of our population living in substandard housing. And we intend, in part because of this bill, to go and inspect those units and make sure that those landlords bring those properties up to code so that children are not poisoned by lead paint. What is happening without this bill is that children get poisoned by lead from the paint in their living situation. Then, after they've been diagnosed with poison blood, then the county comes and inspects where they live. And almost all of the time, it's from the peeling paint from the very poorly maintained apartment that they live in. And we need to get in front of that and reverse that situation so that landlords have to remediate the paint and so that prevent the children from being poisoned. We also know from the work of the Get the Lead Out, or let's say Allegheny Coalition, that most of the time it's less than $200 to fix the situation. So those landlords just need to go fix that situation. We know that we have the capacity to do it. And so this is definitely time to stop talking and move forward with the language that we have, but then continue to talk about how we add in the capacities for the city to approach the other situations like Councilman Coghill was talking about with contractors. Most of the building permits that we have are for more highly resourced situations or for flippers where there's no one in the home. And so the home it's a different situation where there aren't people actively exposed. Certainly we have cases where we know people have been poisoned by the lead that's happening while they live in the unit. But we feel that we are the soonest path, the most expeditious path we have is to get the capacity added to our permits, licenses, and inspections for inspectors to go and inspect for the maintenance code. So I'm really eager for us to get up to speed. I'd like to talk about the dollars for a minute as well. Councilman Strasburger reminded us that we allocated $2 million of our American Rescue Plan funding just for this lead inspection and remediation. Secondly, around childcare facilities, just in the last several years, the $2 million that Women of Council allocated back in 2017, I think, for childcare facilities has finally rolled out this year. And that is available to childcare operations right now. And so they could be using those funds, I'm pretty sure, for facility improvements, including any and all lead remediation that is needed. There's a second pot of funds. There was a $250,000, I think the Women on Council moved over in 2015 for childcare facilities that in December of 2019, we moved over to the URA for micro lending for smaller childcare providers. That was matched last year by $1.5 million from PNC Foundation. So there is actually nearly another $2 million for childcare facilities and operators at the URA. So we know there are funds and we know that that's available, and I encourage any and all people who are concerned about the lead remediations at the childcare facilities to continue to advocate for the use of those funds. I believe they're open and there are no restrictions, and it's possible. I've made inquiries to see if maybe some of the monies that have been distributed to date may have already gone to create lead safe environments. So this is a really great day to bring us to this point. Sure, there are other aspects of city permitting and capacities that we look forward to adding, but that doesn't mean it should hold up us doing the work that we can get started on, which is to inspect, especially apartments. And we hope to see that next year. So that's wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other more conversation? Seeing no other conversation, there's a motion to approve on the table. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. That takes us to Bill. And I want to the record note that Councilman Lavelle, who has to step out and come back, has registered an aye vote on the bills that appear to us if he's not at the table. That takes us to our next new paper.
Bill 2186, resolution further amending resolution number 647 entitled Resolution Adopting and Approving the 2021 Capital Budget, the 2021 CDBG Program, the 2021 through 2026 Capital Improvement Program by adding $8,342,028 to reflect the allocation of the home ARP funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and authorizing a subsequent agreement.
Need a motion, Mr. Wilson?
Motion to approve, discussion.
Second.
There's
Sorry.
someone on the line that can brief counsel.
Hello, I'm
Maybe,
David Hutchinson. I'm the Assistant Director for Capital and Asset Management, and I think we're joined by Whitney Finstrom as well.
great.
Hi. So you might be familiar with the Home Investment Partnership Program that the URA has run for the city for a number of years. This program is actually pretty different. It targets a different population that's much more lower income. This Home ARP funds supports kind of four main categories of activities. Whitney can probably explain those in better detail. But the primary focus for the qualifying populations, there's four different populations, but the two that we're most concerned with are people who are currently experiencing homelessness and those that are at risk of experiencing homelessness. So the latter category is anybody whose income is 30% or less of the area median income, which for Pittsburgh is about $18,000 or less. And the intention for us is to be able to pass this legislation so that we can do two things. One, it allows us to go under contract with HUD to be able to get the funds, to start spending them. And two, it gives us access, once we have the contract signed with HUD, it gives us access to about 5% of the funds so that we can go out and hire a consultant to be able to help us do the planning that's necessary for this document.
You mentioned,
Because of the nature of the fund, I'm sorry, go ahead.
just a point of clarity. If you mentioned homelessness, how are you defining? I'm sorry. You mentioned people who are experiencing homelessness, but you also mentioned like percent of income. What percent of income are you looking to support in this bill?
Yeah, so at risk of homelessness is defined by anyone who has an annual income below 30% of the median family income for the area, as determined by HUD. So specific to Pittsburgh, I think it's about $17,800 and lower would qualify you for this funding.
Hmm. And what does the bill intend to do? You said one will get us, can you explain that part about HUD and also the URA?
As Dave was saying, we immediately, once we have the agreement signed to HUD, we'll have access to roughly 5% of the funds. And those funds can be utilized for the planning process to hire a company to help us do the planning process. There's a fairly extensive allocation plan required for the home ARP program because it's a unique program. It's kind of like a emergency solutions grant program with the home program layered on top. Because the program includes production or preservation of affordable housing, tenant-based rental assistance, supportive services for homeless prevention, and the purchase and development of non-congregate shelters. So we first have to kind of understand what the qualifying population is, homeless, near homeless, in order to then develop a plan to then send to HUD that we hope would get approved, and then we would have access to the full funding. But we do have to work with the continuum of care, Allegheny County continuum of care, as well as homeless and domestic violence service providers, veterans groups, and so on, quite a wide range of groups. So we will be engaged in that process, but Dave mentioned we want to hire a planning firm, someone who specializes in this kind of area to assist us with this process.
Hmm. Okay. It's a lot in this, a lot that you're talking about here. I guess I'm just wondering, Okay, I think I'm going to hold my questions and I'm going to ask them throughout the week to get more familiar with what is going to be done here.
Any other conversation? Anybody else? No conversation. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposers, nay. That takes us to the next bill, please.
Bill 2187, resolution further amending resolution number 647 entitled Adopting and Approving the 2021 Capital Budget and the 2021 CDBG Program, the 2021 through 2026 Capital Improvement Program, so as to identify specific public service grant projects in City Council District 2 and authorize a subsequent agreement for operation, administrative expenses, maintenance, purchase of equipment, and/or rehabilitation of neighborhood facilities on behalf of the residents of the city.
Motion. Mr. Wilson,
Motion to approve.
a second. Any conversation? No conversation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Nay. Next bill, please.
Bill 2188, resolution further amending resolution number 840 entitled Resolution Adopting and Approving the 2020 Capital Budget, the 2020 CDBG Program, the 2020 through 2025 Capital Improvement Program, so as to identify specific public service grant projects in City Council District 2 and authorize a subsequent agreement for operation, administrative expenses, maintenance, purchase of equipment, and/or rehabilitation of neighborhood facilities on behalf of the residents.
Need a motion, Mr. Wilson.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Next bill, please.
Bill 2189, resolution providing for an agreement with the Urban League of Pittsburgh for the implementation and administration of the Housing Counseling Program and related costs in an amount not to exceed $100,000.
Need a motion, Mr.
So moved.
Any conversation? See no conversation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Next bill, please.
Bill 2200, ordinance amending and supplementing the Pittsburgh City Code Title 5 Traffic Article 7 Parking, Chapter 541 General Parking Regulations, Section 54102 Prohibition in Specified Places.
Oh, yeah.
The motion, Mr. Wilson.
Motion to approve. Discussion.
Need a second. And now you have a motion to amend on the table, Mr. Wilson. You want to submit this?
Yeah, I just want to talk about the bill at first.
Okay.
So, basically, this is it looks to be a pretty simple addition to the places to prohibit parking, which is to add to the list of stop, stand, or park a vehicle that you would not be allowed to park a vehicle in a bicycle lane. And so surprisingly enough, we don't have that. So this looks to add that. I would like to make I'm going to offer up an amendment now. You have in front of you, basically this further defines a bicycle lane. So motion to amend.
A second. Any conversation about the motion to amend? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Well,
Opposers, nay. The bill is amended, takes us back to the original bill with your amendment. Mr. Wilson, you still have the.
all right, thanks. And so I would like to hold for a week because of two things. One is we'd like to have further conversation and also, allow council to entertain this as well, which is to try to include ADA exceptions and then also to include any other further exceptions. For instance, I know some of us have a church in their district that may, like only use that on a Sunday. So, I just want to hold it for a week so that we can have further discussion. Yeah. But basically what I want to do is I want to figure out a way where if there is ever an exception that it, exists in time.
Mr. Cross.
Yeah, just briefly, I'll support the hold and happy to do that. But some like handicap accessibility, those kinds of things are probably already governed under state law. I'm happy to do that. Some of it it could become redundant.
But yeah.
There is.
Yeah, so I mean, if there is state law, I just want to incorporate that in here, but then also I mean, it's just interesting to know, like, it is illegal, like, by the state to not park in any moving lane. Bicycle lane is considered a moving lane, but this is to further define it so that our enforcement, whether it's a parking authority or the Pittsburgh police, can enforce it without, hesitancy.
Thank you. I'm happy to support the whole.
So I'll work with you. There is only one place I'm a little concerned. I just don't know. It may not be a bicycle lane, so I just have to figure it out. And that's East Liberty Boulevard.
Exactly. That's why we're gonna.
East Liberty Boulevard,
we're gonna-
only because there is a church that on Sundays uses that extensively for parking. If they did not have that parking, there'd be no place for the congregation to park. It's the Robin Street Baptist Church. So we will work with you to see what that looks like. 'Cause I'm not sure if it's
It's probably signed, Councilman, already as an exception for Sundays. What's the church on Grant Street, forgive me, across the street from this US Steel building? That's signed for exemption on Sunday because it's used for church parking.
We'll find out. I'll find out. And I know that's the only place in my district that it may not be, because the bicycle lane may be between the parking lane. I don't know. I gotta look at it again. It's in my head. I won't re-argue. I didn't want them to make that a bicycle lane, so I won't re-argue that loss. But is your motion to hold now in the former motion?
Yes.
Your
1 week.
second?
1 week, right?
1 week, yeah.
Motion to hold 1 week. There's a probably moving second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. It is held for 1 week. It takes us to Urban Recreation Committee, which I am the chair. We have a supplemental paper, Madam Clerk.
Bill 2205, resolution amending resolution number 24, authorizing the Department of Parks and Recreation to enter into a community partner access agreement with Voices Against Violence and the Pittsburgh Contingency for use of the McKinley Community Recreation Center in order to provide recreational and community-focused activities. Said agreement shall be at no cost.
Need a motion?
Motion to approve, very brief discussion.
Is second?
Thanks, Councilwoman, and thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the work that Richard Carrington does with the programming of Voices Against Violence and providing for his access to McKinley Rec Center to do his programming from at no cost to the city. And I just appreciate that, Mr. Chair, you were willing to move this ahead and to handle it today. So thank you.
His work is very important. I know him, of course,
It's
and I'm a
incredibly
fan of his
important.
work and of his family. So certainly want to support his work. There's a motion to approve on the table. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. That exhausts, SO is approved, that policy recommendation. That takes us to Innovation, Performance, and Asset Management Committee. Mrs. Strasburger is the chair. We have a deferred paper.
Bill 521, resolution repealing, amending and reenacting resolution number 18, titled Resolution Authorizing and Directing that the Bureau of Cable Communications, Department of Public Works, broadcast all city council's regular legislative sessions, standing committee meetings, setting forth the responsibilities of the Department of Innovation and Performance with respect to meetings of city council and to reflect various changes in the city's departmental organization structure and other changes to reflect technological innovations since 1983.
A motion to hold let me do a motion to approve, then I'm going to hold it. Motion to approve, real brief discussion. So I've been talking to the clerk a little bit for the president.
1 second, we need someone else to make the motion.
It said they did, didn't they? The
No,
motion.
she second.
You don't know.
To approve.
Huh?
It's like motioning to second, but is it for?
Need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve, brief discussion.
Yes.
Need a second.
Second, thank
Right.
you. Okay,
Really quickly,
we good.
I will bring back words in 2 weeks.
All right.
One of the conflicts is in the code is, believe it or not, we do not, because it predates the modern council, we don't have control over the broadcast of our own meetings, right? And so we need to put language in it because it is written from when there was a cable bureau and not housed in INP. And as it stands right now, neither the council president nor council actually has authority to monitor our meetings, or if we want to go into the public, let's say we want to have these neighborhood meetings. Well, right now, the Cable Bureau is kind enough to go, but we don't really have the authority to tell them to go, right? We need to update the code so that council has control of its own meetings. So the president can call for meetings, and the Bureau will then not have to decide whether they're going to cover it or not. They simply will have to follow the directions of the council president. So it's going to be minor. It's not a major change. It's a minor change, but we've been talking about it for months as to kind of what to do. And I think today the clerk and I have decided how to move forward. So within 2 weeks, you will have, I won't hold it again, 2 weeks from now, you will have new language that we can all approve. It will not be major, but it will give back control of the broadcasting of our meetings to council itself. I need a motion to hold for 2 weeks, please.
Motion to hold 2 weeks? Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Thank you very much. It is held for 2 weeks. That takes us to Bill 2163.
Bill 2163, resolution providing for the creation of the Technology Modernization Trust Fund and setting conditions for the deposit of revenues into an expenditure from the Technology Modernization Trust Fund.
Need a motion, Ms. Strasburger.
Motion to approve discussion.
Second, there is an amendment.
There's an
Ms.
amendment on the
Gross.
table. Motion to amend. Well, would you like to discuss? I'll turn it over to Councilwoman Gross to.
If a motion to amend, are we going to second the motion to amend, or you want to
Second.
wait? Second, so we're now on the amendment. Ms. Gross.
Thank you. And thank you to Councilwoman Strasburger, who was willing to hold for a week last week and set up a meeting with Director Paulus and Director Norman so that we all work this out in ways that work for them so that we support the spirit of what they were trying to do. But you recall last week, the wording, the original wording said like they could transfer money from the city's general fund. And I asked, well, how much is in the general fund today? And it was $70 million. And I'm like, okay, wait, you can't, no, we're not going to let you do that. So we just put some very simple additional language that you have in front of you. So sure, the money can originate from the city's general fund, but only as appropriated annually in the annual operating budget process. So it will be publicly presented. It will be done once a year. Council will see it and have the opportunity to approve or amend. Sure, it can receive grants and charitable funds and matching funds. And what I didn't want it to do was to grow so large as it to become some kind of behemoth that was not accountable to council. So I'm comfortable it being like the Mellon Park Tennis Bubble Trust Fund, where we trust Director Norman, who's currently the Director of IMP, to have the funds that are flexible enough for her to using the Technology Leadership Council, make withdrawals from this trust fund without it coming back to council each time, but only if the fund stays a manageable size. So I said, you can either zero it out. And they said, no. So we have limited the balance of the Technology Modernization Trust Fund at any given time shall not exceed 1% of the city's operating budget for that year. Everybody's comfortable with that language. It's still substantial.
Yes,
That would be $6 million.
Yeah.
So it's not small. If we wanted to make it smaller than that, I think we could do that too. But we're willing to kind of let this play out with these limits on both kind of what can go in and how big can this get. And I think it brings up an important quality that we hadn't been talking about in the trust funds, is that if they're going to accumulate outside the public eye, let them not get so big, especially if the allocations are not coming back to council for approvals, right? Imagine 10 years from now, without any limits, this thing growing to, hundreds of millions of dollars or something, right? And we don't want to put that much independent power and independent expenditures out of public eye. So it's just I think it was a good discussion. And we all feel comfortable with the language that we have in front of you.
Any other conversation about the amendment? No other conversation about the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. It is amended that takes us to original bill. Any conversations about the original bill? Seeing none, I'd like to say something, just one thing. I have certainly over the last few months, become much more supportive and impressed by Councilwoman Gross's attention to detail. I tend to sometimes be so process focused that I don't really catch the detail. And over the last few months, especially, she's been saying some things that have been true over the couple years, which I've also told her she was right. But I have found moving forward that that typically when she talks about a detail that I had overlooked or wasn't paying attention to it, she's usually right. And so I just want to say that to you. I have found that to be true, that you're usually right on and having thought about the unintended consequences of the details that oftentimes most of us, especially me, overlook. So I want to recognize that I am paying a lot more attention now when you bring up these red flags in terms of policy. Okay, so it has been thus amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Positive recommendation takes us to new paper.
Bill 2183, ordinance supplementing the Pittsburgh Code Title IV, Public Places and Property, Article 14, Public Buildings, by creating a new Chapter 489, Electric Vehicle Charging, to ensure that new and renovated city-owned facilities are ready to and capable of supporting the growing demand for electric vehicle charging.
Need a motion, Ms. Strasburger.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any conversation? See no conversation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Takes us to the next new bill.
Bill 2184, resolution authorizing the city to enter into a professional services agreement and/or a contract with Core Business Technologies for software, equipment, and services related to payment processing and a cashiering system for the Department of Finance. Total cost not to exceed $234,486.60 over a 3-year term with 2 option years.
Motion to approve.
Need a second? Any conversation? No conversation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. A positive recommendation. It takes us to the next committee of the day and the last committee of the day, Intergovernmental Affairs. Mrs. Gross. Ms. Gross is the chair. We have a deferred paper.
Bill 1852, resolution authorizing the URA to acquire all the city's right, title, and interest, if any, in and to the publicly owned property in the 20th ward of the city designated in the Registry Office of Allegheny County, Council District Number 2, Zephyr Avenue, southwest side of Zephyr Avenue, southwest of Sherwood Avenue.
Motion to approve. Discussion.
Second.
Second.
Chair, I didn't talk to Councilwoman Smith about this parcel, and she asked for the hold last time. I feel bad because I try to follow up with members about the projects in their districts, but I really don't know her wish here.
You either wait till, your whole week till next Tuesday, you have like 9 days to next Tuesday, or you can hold it for a week, your choice.
Let's just hold it for till our next meeting. Next standing.
There's a motion on the table for a 1-week hold. Is there a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. It is held for 1 week. New paper, please.
Bill 2180, resolution adopting the plan revision to the City of Pittsburgh's official sewer facilities plan for the 5th and Dinwiddie West Site project, which will involve the development of 152 one-bedroom and 19 two-bedroom residential units, as well as a retail space located within Allegheny County in the 3rd Ward.
Motion to approve.
Second. Any conversation? No conversation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Positive recommendation. Next bill, please.
Bill 2181, resolution adopting the plan revision to the City of Pittsburgh's official sewer facilities plan for the 5th and Dinwiddie East Side project, which will involve the renovation and expansion of an existing building to create commercial and retail space located within Allegheny County in the 3rd Ward.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any conversation? No conversation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. That exhausts our meeting agenda. I do have some meeting announcements. Budget meetings will continue tomorrow, Tuesday, November 23rd. The housing, parking, and sports and exhibition and stadium authorities at 10 a.m., chaired by Councilwoman Groves. And the PWSA in Alcoasand at 1:30, also chaired by Councilwoman Groves. Next week, budget meetings will continue on Monday, November 29th at 10 a.m. with the Mayor's Office chaired by Council President Smith and the Office of Equity and City Controller chaired by Councilman Lavelle. And 1:30, the URA, the Housing Opportunity Fund, and the Pittsburgh Land Bank, chaired by Councilwoman Gross, and City Planning, chaired by Councilman Wilson. Anything from members? Being a little bit of council history buff, I want to just mention, I think, at least it's the first time I've done it, I think this would be the first time that a president pro tem, since I've been here, has chaired both meetings on the same day. Kind of odd thing, right? But it's something that I don't remember ever happening. I've never done it, and I never remember seeing it done. I know the president has chaired both meetings. I'm not sure if you've done it on the same day. So, because it almost really
I
not.
remember what I had for breakfast, Councilman.
Yeah, because it really happens that we meet on the same day, right? It's so rare. It's a rare thing. And then for President Pro Tem to do it, it's even rarer. Just a rare thing. All right, so motion.
There's a lot going on. It requires
Yeah, it's COVID, so who knows?
you to fill in.
Motion to excuse the absent members, approve the minutes, and adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. We are adjourned.